An El Paso judge laid a big Easter egg yesterday, releasing more than 70 migrants who were rounded up after that riot that we all saw at the El Paso border involving the Texas National Guard. Joining me now is Chad Wolf, former DHS Secretary and Executive Director of AFPI. Chad, great to see you. I mean, with judges like this, you don't need Mayorkas. I mean, and apparently you were telling me in the commercial break, there are a lot of judges that have done this, that come from liberal-oriented cities that are releasing migrants just as quickly as Mayorkas is.
Yeah, obviously this is a disappointing ruling because what we see here is actually the state of Texas trying to impose some consequences, some deterrence in the system as they see thousands of folks streaming across that border. And so when they actually take the step to arrest these individuals and get them before a court, the last thing that you want to see is that the judge is dismissing them because the district attorney there evidently was not ready to start those detention hearings of some sort. So it's a disappointing ruling. I wish that, A, the district attorney had been able to present the case better, but that the judge indicating the kind of really the seriousness of this situation would not just release these folks on their own recognizance, which is what he did. Now,
you know the bureaucracy at DHS pretty well. Aren't there people there? I mean, after all, it was created after 9/11. It was supposed to focus on our national security. Now it seems to be doing anything but that. Do you think that the bureaucrats that have been there for years are upset about this? Do you think there's any pushback from the people at DHS to what Mayorkas is doing? Or am I too naive in believing that there are good people in that bureaucracy?
No, I think that's right, particularly as it relates to Border Patrol and law enforcement officers. Look, these guys take an oath. They get trained to protect, particularly along that border, and keep bad people and dangerous things out of this country. And when they're sent there to simply process more and more migrants and they see the flow coming across, right? We had the chief of the Border Patrol just recently say how he's really concerned about the national security threats and the gotaways that they're seeing because of this uncontrolled flow coming across that border. So I think there's a lot of folks at DHS beyond or just below the political leadership there that are very concerned about the direction that the department and now the country has seen for the last 3 years. They would like a change. They would like a shift. I just don't think that you'll see this if you have the president and Secretary Mayorkas directing the policy.
Now, of course, the president and Mayorkas say that if we had that bill that didn't get through the Senate, that if we had that bill, we would have more border agents. They would keep people out. They actually say that. Do you have any doubt in your mind that they would just be used for processing rather than for law enforcement work?
Well, it's a great point, right? They're trying to convince the American people that they need more and more authority, yet they're not using the authority they have. And when they do, as you indicate, they just use it to process more and more individuals in. They also talk about, the bill would allow them to hire more Border Patrol agents. It's about an 18-month cycle from the time they get authorization to you get people on the line as it goes through background checks and training and everything else. And so it actually is not going to have an immediate impact on the crisis. What would have an immediate impact is actually using the authority that they had, authorities that President Trump's administration used to secure that border. They have the same authorities. No new laws have been passed. They can utilize some of those same policies that worked, same programs that worked, but they choose not to do that. Instead, they want to blame it on Congress. Congress didn't create this crisis in 2021. The Biden administration did, and they have the ability to solve it today if they wanted to.
And now, of course, related to national security, we have this spiking of migrant crime where not only individual bad actors are coming across, but whole teams of bad actors being let out of jails in Venezuela. President Trump was the first person to mention that. Turned out he was right. Everybody poo-pooed him. And now I'm told by people like Paul Morrow and others who follow these things domestically, there are these gang wars between various I can only call them tribes of bad actors from Venezuela, from El Salvador, from Colombia, who are fighting for territory. So we've created this whole new group of organized criminals or organized crime families that are fighting with each other now.
Well, I think that's right. It shouldn't be a surprise. Obviously, we've dealt with MS-13 gang members here in the United States coming from El Salvador mainly, but other parts as well. But when you have this influx that we've seen over the last 3 years where you're looking at 7, 9, maybe up to 11 million individuals coming across that border. Obviously, there's going to be some bad individuals and criminals in there, particularly from countries like Venezuela and Nicaragua and others. And that's what we're seeing today. And so there's always been crime associated with that, and it's being elevated because as these numbers increase, the number of crimes, the elevated nature of a lot of these crimes are starting to catch the attention of the American people, and they're saying enough is enough.
Right.
I want to see a change. When are we going to get some order and some security back to that border? And they're waiting on President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas to announce some new initiatives to say, hey, here's how we're addressing that. And unfortunately, we don't see that. Instead, every time they announce something new, it has the opposite effect.
Right. Chad Wolf, thank you for your service, Chad. Maybe we'll see you back in the next administration. We'll see. Thank